Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling while your mind races through an endless carousel of questions that seem to have no answers? Questions like, why do I feel so disconnected from my true purpose? Why does it seem like some people just naturally understand the deeper mysteries of life while I'm stumbling through darkness? Why do the same patterns keep repeating in my relationships, my health, my career, no matter how hard I try to change them? If you're nodding your head right now, feeling that familiar ache of recognition in your chest, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just another self-help promise or spiritual band-aid. It's an invitation to step into a conversation that has been waiting for you your entire life. A conversation with one of the most remarkable individuals who ever walked this earth. Someone whose insights continue to transform lives nearly a century after his passing. You see, there's something profoundly isolating about feeling like you're living on the surface of your own existence, isn't there? You go through the motions, check the boxes, accomplish the goals that society tells you matter, but deep down, there's this persistent whisper that keeps asking, is this all there is? Maybe you've tried meditation apps, read countless books, attended workshops, or even sought therapy, and while these things might have helped momentarily, that deeper yearning for understanding, for real answers, for a sense of connection to something greater than yourself, remains largely unfulfilled. What makes this search even more challenging is how alone it can make you feel. When you try to express these deeper questions to friends or family, you might be met with well-meaning but ultimately hollow responses like, just be grateful for what you have, or stop overthinking everything. And while there's wisdom in gratitude and overthinking certainly has its pitfalls, dismissing these profound questions feels like betraying the very essence of who you are, doesn't it? Because somewhere in your soul, you know these aren't just random wonderings. They're the stirrings of something much more significant trying to emerge. This is where Edgar Cayce enters the picture, not as another guru with easy answers, but as someone who understood the complexity of human existence in ways that still leave researchers and spiritual seekers amazed today. Known as the sleeping prophet, Cayce possessed an extraordinary ability that defied conventional understanding. He could enter a trance-like state and provide detailed, accurate information about people's health, life challenges, and spiritual development without ever having met them. But here's what's truly remarkable. His insights weren't just mystical platitudes or vague spiritual concepts. They were practical, specific, and consistently helpful guidance that addressed the real, messy, complicated aspects of being human. Imagine having access to someone who could look beyond the surface symptoms of your struggles and identify the deeper patterns, the root causes, the connections between your physical health and emotional well-being, between your current challenges and your soul's larger journey. Someone who could explain why you keep attracting the same types of relationships, why certain health issues persist despite your best efforts, why you feel drawn to particular places or activities, or why certain people seem to trigger such intense reactions in you. But perhaps what's most compelling about Cayce's work is how it addresses that fundamental question that haunts so many of us. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? Not in some abstract philosophical sense, but in very concrete, actionable ways. His readings consistently revealed that each person has a unique purpose, a specific role to play in the larger tapestry of existence, and that many of our struggles stem from being disconnected from this purpose or resisting the path our soul is trying to lead us down. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How can listening to someone who lived decades ago possibly change my life today? And that skepticism is not only understandable, but healthy. We've all been disappointed by promises that didn't deliver, by systems that claimed to have all the answers but left us feeling more confused than when we started. But here's the thing about Cayce's work that makes it different. It doesn't ask you to believe anything. It simply invites you to listen, to consider, and to test the insights against your own experience. The beauty of spending focused time with Cayce's teachings is that they have a way of speaking directly to the questions you didn't even know you had. You might start listening because you're curious about health and healing, but find yourself deeply moved by his insights about forgiveness and relationships. Or you might be drawn to his perspectives on life purpose, only to discover that his understanding of dreams and symbolism unlocks patterns you've been trying to understand for years. There's something almost magical about how his words seem to find their way to exactly the places in your consciousness that need attention. It's as if he had a unique ability to speak to the part of you that knows things, the part that recognizes truth when it hears it, even if your logical mind can't immediately explain why something resonates so deeply. And here's what I find most powerful about engaging with Cayce's work. It doesn't just give you answers. It awakens your own inner knowing. It reminds you that you already possess profound wisdom about your life, your relationships, your health, and your purpose. Sometimes we just need someone to ask the right questions, to point us toward the connections we haven't yet made, to help us see the bigger picture of our experiences. This is why 44 minutes can be so transformative, not because it's some magical number, but because it's enough time to settle into a deeper state of receptivity, to move beyond surface-level listening and into genuine contemplation. It's enough time for new insights to emerge, for connections to form, for that persistent inner voice to finally find space to speak. What strikes me most about people who spend intentional time with Cayce's teachings is how they describe feeling less alone afterward, not because they've found all the answers, but because they've reconnected with the sense that their questions matter, that their struggles have meaning, that they're part of something much larger and more beautiful than they previously understood. So as we embark on this journey together, I want you to know that whatever brought you here today, whatever questions you're carrying, whatever struggles you're facing, you're not alone in them. Millions of people throughout history have grappled with these same fundamental questions about purpose, meaning, healing, and connection. And while each person's path is unique, the wisdom that emerges from sincere seeking has a way of illuminating possibilities we never knew existed. If this exploration speaks to something in your heart, if you feel that familiar stirring of hope mixed with curiosity, I invite you to become part of our growing community of seekers by subscribing to this channel, not just because it helps us reach more people who might benefit from this content, but because there's something powerful that happens when people who are asking deep questions come together. Your insights in the comments, your questions, your own experiences, all contribute to a collective understanding that benefits everyone who encounters it. Are you ready to discover what Edgar Cayce might have to say about the questions that keep you awake at night? There's something deeply unsettling about the moment when you realize that everything you've been taught about healing, about the nature of illness, about the separation between mind and body, might be fundamentally incomplete. I remember the first time I truly understood this, sitting in a sterile doctor's office holding yet another prescription that promised to mask symptoms without ever addressing the deeper currents flowing beneath the surface of my dis-ease. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like a mechanical prayer, and I found myself wondering, what if there's so much more to this human experience than we've been led to believe? Perhaps you've been in a similar place. Maybe you've felt that gnawing frustration when medical professionals treat your body like a broken machine, focusing on isolated parts while ignoring the magnificent, interconnected symphony of your being. Or perhaps you've experienced those moments when your intuition whispered truths that conventional wisdom couldn't explain, when you sensed connections between your emotional state and physical symptoms that seemed too subtle, too mysterious for the scientific mind to grasp. If so, then you understand the profound loneliness that comes with feeling like you're living in a world that has forgotten some essential truth about what it means to be human. This is where Edgar Cayce's story becomes not just fascinating, but personally revolutionary. Here was a man who lived during an era when medicine was becoming increasingly mechanized, increasingly divorced from the spiritual dimensions of human experience, yet he possessed an ability that challenged every assumption about consciousness, healing, and the nature of reality itself. When he entered those mysterious trance states, something extraordinary occurred that continues to baffle researchers and transform lives nearly a century later. Picture this: a simple man from rural Kentucky with little formal education, closing his eyes and somehow accessing information that seasoned physicians with decades of training couldn't obtain. But it wasn't just medical information he retrieved from these altered states of consciousness. He seemed to tap into something far more profound, a kind of universal database of human experience that revealed the intricate connections between physical symptoms and spiritual imbalances, between current life challenges and deeper soul patterns, between individual healing and collective understanding. What moves me most deeply about Cayce's approach is how it honored the complexity of human suffering. He didn't offer quick fixes or simple solutions. Instead, his readings revealed layer after layer of connection, showing how a person's chronic back pain might be related to carrying emotional burdens they hadn't learned to release, or how digestive issues could reflect an inability to digest certain life experiences. This wasn't metaphorical thinking or New Age wishful thoughts. These were specific practical insights that, when followed, led to genuine healing transformations that conventional medicine had deemed impossible. I think about the thousands of people who found their way to Cayce during his lifetime, many of them desperate souls who had exhausted every conventional option. They arrived carrying the weight of diagnoses that felt like life sentences, clutching the hope that somewhere in this man's mysterious gift they might find the key that would unlock their path back to wholeness. And time and again, Cayce's unconscious mind would reveal not just what was wrong, but why it was wrong, and most importantly, what specific steps could be taken to restore balance and vitality. But here's what strikes me as truly revolutionary about his work. He never separated physical healing from spiritual growth. In reading after reading, he demonstrated that our bodies are not merely biological machines, but sacred vessels carrying the imprint of our soul's journey. Every illness, every symptom, every challenge contained within it, not just a problem to be solved, but a message to be understood, a lesson to be integrated, a pathway to deeper self-awareness and spiritual evolution. This understanding feels particularly relevant now, doesn't it? In our current world, where we're increasingly disconnected from our bodies, from nature, from the subtle energies that flow through and around us, Cayce's insights offer a kind of remembering, a return to a more complete understanding of what it means to be human. His readings consistently revealed that true healing occurs not when we suppress symptoms or override the body's wisdom, but when we learn to listen deeply to what our physical experience is trying to teach us. I find myself thinking about how different our relationship with illness might be if we approached it with this kind of reverence and curiosity, instead of seeing symptoms as enemies to be defeated. What if we could learn to recognize them as messengers, carrying important information about imbalances that exist, not just in our tissues and organs, but in our thoughts, emotions, relationships, and spiritual alignment? This doesn't mean we abandon medical care or ignore the very real suffering that illness can bring. Rather, it means expanding our understanding to include dimensions of healing that conventional medicine often overlooks. Cayce's work demonstrated something that modern science is only beginning to acknowledge, that consciousness itself is a healing force, that the mind and spirit have the power to influence physical reality in ways we're still learning to understand. His trance states weren't just curiosities or psychic phenomena, they represented a different mode of consciousness, one that could access information and healing potential that our ordinary waking awareness simply cannot reach. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself, doesn't it? If a man in rural Kentucky could close his eyes and somehow know the precise details of a stranger's medical condition hundreds of miles away, what does this tell us about the boundaries we've assumed exist between minds, between individual consciousness and universal intelligence, between the physical and the metaphysical realms? For those of us who have felt the limitations of purely materialistic approaches to healing, Cayce's legacy offers something precious: permission to trust our intuition, to honor the subtle communications of our bodies, to consider that our symptoms might be carrying wisdom rather than simply representing biological malfunction. His work validated what sensitive souls have always sensed, that healing is fundamentally about restoring harmony, about remembering our connection to the larger intelligence that flows through all life. But perhaps most importantly, Cayce's approach to healing was profoundly empowering. Rather than positioning people as passive recipients of expert intervention, his readings consistently emphasized each individual's active role in their own healing process. He understood that true healing requires not just the right remedies or treatments, but a willingness to examine our lives honestly, to make necessary changes, to take responsibility for our part in creating and maintaining the conditions that allowed illness to take root. This kind of healing work asks something of us that goes beyond taking medications or following treatment protocols. It asks us to become archaeologists of our own experience, carefully excavating the layers of belief, emotion, and memory that have shaped our physical reality. It requires courage to face aspects of ourselves we might prefer to ignore, compassion to hold our wounds with tenderness rather than judgment, and faith in our inherent capacity for transformation and renewal. As we continue exploring these deeper dimensions of healing and consciousness, I'm reminded that this journey of understanding is one we're all taking together, each of us contributing our own piece of the larger puzzle. Your experiences, your insights, your questions, all matter in this ongoing conversation about what it means to be fully human, fully alive, fully connected to the mysterious intelligence that animates our existence. If these reflections resonate with something stirring in your own heart, if you feel called to continue this exploration of consciousness and healing, I warmly invite you to join our growing community by subscribing to this channel. Together, we can continue uncovering the profound wisdom that lies waiting in the intersection between ancient understanding and modern discovery, supporting each other as we remember what our souls have always known about the true nature of healing and wholeness. There's a moment that comes to all of us, usually in the quiet hours when the world has stopped demanding our attention, when we find ourselves staring into the mirror mirror of our own existence and asking the question that echoes through every human heart. Why am I here? Not just here in this room or this job or this relationship, but here in this life, in this particular constellation of circumstances that somehow came together to create the unique symphony of your experience. And if you're like me, if you're like most people who dare to ask such questions, the silence that follows can feel both terrifying and sacred, pregnant with possibilities you can barely begin to imagine. I've carried this question with me through sleepless nights and crowded days, through moments of profound joy and periods of crushing despair, always sensing that somewhere beneath the surface of my ordinary awareness lay answers that could transform not just how I understood my life, but how I lived it. Perhaps you know this feeling too, this persistent sense that you're meant for something more, something deeper, something that would make all the struggles and confusion and seemingly random events of your existence suddenly click into place like pieces of a cosmic puzzle you've been unconsciously assembling your entire life. This is where Edgar Cayce's teachings become not just intellectually fascinating, but soul-stirringly personal. Here was a man who, through his extraordinary gift, could peer into the deeper currents of human existence and reveal the hidden patterns, the sacred geometry of individual purpose that operates beneath the chaotic surface of daily life. His insights about reincarnation, karma, and soul growth weren't abstract philosophical concepts, but practical roadmaps for understanding why your life has unfolded exactly as it has, why certain people have appeared at crucial moments, why particular challenges have tested you in ways that seemed almost surgically precise in their ability to touch your deepest wounds. When I first encountered Cayce's perspective on soul purpose, I felt something shift inside me, like a key turning in a lock I hadn't even realized existed. Suddenly, the difficult relationships that had shaped me, the career detours that had seemed like failures, the health challenges that had forced me to slow down and reassess everything, all began to reveal themselves as not random misfortunes or cosmic mistakes, but as carefully orchestrated opportunities for growth, healing, and awakening to aspects of myself I might never have discovered otherwise. Think about your own life for a moment. Consider those experiences that felt most challenging, most painful, most likely to break you. Now imagine for a moment that your soul, in its infinite wisdom, actually chose those experiences before you were born, not as punishment or bad luck, but as the precise curriculum needed for your unique journey of evolution. This isn't about blame or spiritual bypassing of real suffering. Rather, it's about recognizing that perhaps there's a deeper intelligence at work in your life, one that sees beyond your current perspective and understands connections that your conscious mind cannot yet grasp. Cayce's readings consistently revealed that we don't just live one life and then disappear into oblivion or eternal reward. Instead, consciousness continues its journey through multiple incarnations, each one building upon the lessons and unfinished business of previous lifetimes. This understanding transforms everything, doesn't it? The person who triggers your anger might be offering you an opportunity to heal an ancient wound. The talent that comes so naturally to you might be a skill perfected across centuries of practice. The fear that seems to have no logical origin in your current life might be the echo of a trauma from another time, asking to finally be acknowledged and released. But here's what moves me most deeply about this perspective. It suggests that nothing in your life is wasted, nothing is meaningless, nothing is truly lost. Every experience, every relationship, every triumph and failure contributes to the magnificent tapestry of your soul's evolution. The years you spent in that job you hated might have been teaching you compassion for others who feel trapped. The relationship that ended in heartbreak might have been showing you how to love more fully, first yourself, then others. The illness that forced you to slow down might have been your soul's way of redirecting your energy toward your true calling. This doesn't mean we should passively accept suffering or avoid taking action to improve our circumstances. Rather, it means approaching our challenges with curiosity instead of just resistance, asking not just, how can I get out of this, but what is this experience trying to teach me? Cayce's teachings suggest that when we align with our soul's deeper purpose, when we begin to work with the flow of our karmic patterns rather than against them, life becomes not easier necessarily, but more meaningful, more coherent, more filled with the kind of purpose that makes even difficult experiences feel worthwhile. I remember the profound relief I felt when I first truly understood that my struggles weren't evidence of my failure or proof that I was somehow fundamentally flawed. Instead, they were signs that my soul was actively engaged in its growth process, that I was exactly where I needed to be for the next phase of my development. This shift in perspective didn't eliminate challenges, but it transformed my relationship with them entirely. Pain became a teacher rather than an enemy. enemy. Confusion became an invitation to trust rather than evidence of being lost. Setbacks became redirections rather than defeats. Cayce taught that meditation and prayer weren't just spiritual practices, but practical tools for accessing the deeper wisdom of our souls, for receiving guidance about our purpose and direction. In those quiet moments of turning inward, we can begin to sense the subtle currents that are always flowing beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. Currents that can guide us toward choices and actions that align with our highest good. But perhaps even more importantly, he emphasized that service to others, genuine care for the welfare of our fellow beings, is both a natural expression of spiritual growth and a catalyst for continued evolution. This understanding feels particularly relevant in our current world, where it's easy to become consumed with personal advancement and individual success, while losing sight of our fundamental interconnectedness. Cayce's teachings remind us that our personal growth and service to others aren't separate goals but aspects of the same sacred work. As we heal our own wounds and develop our own gifts, we naturally become more capable of contributing to the healing and growth of others. As we serve others with genuine love and compassion, we accelerate our own spiritual development in ways that purely self-focused practices cannot achieve. There's something profoundly comforting about recognizing that you're not alone in this journey of awakening, that countless souls throughout history have walked similar paths of discovery, growth, and service. Your questions about purpose and meaning aren't signs of being lost or confused, but evidence that your soul is stirring, remembering its deeper nature, preparing to step more fully into the magnificent purpose for which you came into this lifetime. The beauty of Cayce's approach is that it doesn't ask you to believe anything on faith alone. Instead, it invites you to experiment, to live as if your life has deeper meaning and purpose, to pay attention to the patterns and synchronicities that emerge when you approach your experiences with this perspective. Notice how different choices feel when you make them from a place of soul alignment rather than just ego desire. Observe how your relationships shift when you begin to see others as fellow souls on their own journeys of growth, rather than just supporting characters in your personal drama. As I've learned to live more consciously from this understanding, I've discovered that life becomes an increasingly beautiful collaboration between my conscious intentions and the mysterious wisdom of my soul. Doors open in ways I couldn't have planned. People appear with exactly the insights or opportunities I need. Challenges arise that, while initially unwelcome, ultimately guide me toward growth and discoveries I wouldn't have made otherwise. Perhaps most importantly, I've found that this perspective brings a kind of peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. When you truly understand that your soul has chosen this lifetime as a school for growth, that every experience contributes to your evolution, that love and service are both the path and the destination, then even difficult times become infused with meaning and purpose that sustains you through whatever storms may come. If these reflections awaken something familiar in your own heart, if they resonate with truths your soul has always known, but perhaps hadn't yet found words to express, then I invite you to continue this exploration with us by subscribing to our channel. Together we can support each other in remembering who we really are, why we're really here, and how we can live with the kind of purpose and meaning that makes every moment of this precious human experience a gift worth treasuring. There's a sacred moment that arrives in every transformative journey, a moment when all the insights and revelations suddenly coalesce into something deeply personal and undeniably real. It's like watching separate threads weave themselves into a tapestry you finally recognize as your own life story, but told from a perspective so elevated, so compassionate, that you barely recognize yourself as the hero of your own tale. I felt this moment wash over me countless times while immersing myself in Edgar Cayce's wisdom, and I suspect, if you've made it this far in our exploration together, you might be feeling something similar stirring within your own consciousness. The beautiful paradox of encountering truly transformative wisdom is that it doesn't feel foreign or shocking when it arrives. Instead, it feels like remembering something you've always known but had somehow forgotten, like finding a piece of yourself that went missing so long ago you'd stopped looking for it. This is exactly what happens when we allow Cayce's insights to move beyond intellectual understanding and begin living in the sacred space between our thoughts and our daily choices, between our fears and our deepest knowing. I think about how many of us spend years, sometimes decades, searching for the key that will unlock our authentic life, the secret that will finally make everything make sense. We attend workshops and read books. We seek guidance from experts and gurus. We try practice after practice, often becoming more confused and frustrated with each new approach we attempt. But what Cayce's work reveals is that the transformation we seek doesn't require us to become someone different than who we already are. Instead, It asks us to become more fully ourselves, to integrate the scattered pieces of our experience into a coherent understanding of why we're here and how we can live in alignment with our soul's deepest purpose. This integration isn't something that happens once and then remains static. It's a daily practice, a continuous conversation between the wisdom we've received and the life we're actually living. When you wake up in the morning and feel that familiar weight of uncertainty about the day ahead, you now have the option to pause and remember that your soul chose this particular day, with all its challenges and opportunities, as part of your curriculum for growth. When you find yourself in conflict with someone who seems determined to push every button you have, you can choose to see this as a karmic opportunity for healing, rather than just an annoyance to be endured. But let's be honest about what this integration actually looks like in practice, because spiritual wisdom that can't be applied to the messy realities of daily life isn't really wisdom at all. It's more like beautiful philosophy that makes us feel inspired for a few moments before we return to our old patterns of thinking and reacting. True integration means allowing Cayce's insights to inform how you approach your morning coffee, your commute to work, your conversations with loved ones, your response to unexpected challenges, your choices about what to eat and how to care for your body. I remember the first time I truly understood what Cayce meant when he spoke about the body being a temple. I was standing in my kitchen, about to eat something I knew wouldn't nourish me, driven by stress and habit rather than genuine hunger or care for my well-being. Suddenly, I felt this profound shift in perspective, as if I could see my body not as this thing I inhabited, but as a sacred vessel, carrying my soul through this lifetime, deserving of the same reverence and care I might offer to any holy sanctuary. That simple moment of recognition transformed not just what I ate that day, but how I related to my physical being from that moment forward. This is the kind of practical mysticism that Cayce's work offers us. It doesn't ask us to retreat from the world or adopt elaborate spiritual practices that disconnect us from ordinary life. Instead, it invites us to recognize the sacred within the mundane, to find the extraordinary hidden within our most common experiences. Your morning meditation doesn't have to be an hour-long affair conducted in perfect silence. It can be 5 minutes of conscious breathing while your coffee brews, a brief moment of connecting with the deeper currents of your being before you engage with the day's demands. The dietary guidance that emerges from Cayce's readings isn't about following rigid rules or eliminating entire food groups. It's about developing sensitivity to how different foods affect not just your physical body, but your mental clarity, emotional stability, and spiritual receptivity. Some days your system might crave the grounding energy of root vegetables. Other times you might need the light, cleansing quality of fresh fruits. Learning to listen to these subtle communications from your body becomes a form of prayer, a way of honoring the wisdom that flows through every cell of your being. Perhaps most importantly, Cayce's understanding of service transforms how we move through our relationships and interactions with others. Service doesn't mean becoming a doormat or sacrificing your own well-being for others. It means recognizing that every encounter is an opportunity to contribute something positive to the collective human experience, even if that contribution is as simple as offering genuine presence or a moment of patient listening to someone who needs to be heard. I found that when I approach my day with this kind of conscious intention, ordinary interactions become luminous with possibility. The checkout person at the grocery store becomes an opportunity to practice presence and kindness. The difficult conversation with a family member becomes a chance to demonstrate the compassion and understanding I'm still learning to offer myself. The unexpected delay in my plans becomes an invitation to practice trust in the larger intelligence that orchestrates the events of our lives. This doesn't mean that life becomes easy or that challenges disappear. If anything, living more consciously often reveals how much work we still have to do, how many patterns we're still ready to heal, how much love we're still learning to embody. But there's a quality of engagement that emerges when we approach our experiences from this perspective, a sense of participating in something meaningful, rather than just being buffeted by random events beyond our control. The 44 minutes we've spent together exploring these ideas represents just the beginning of what's possible when we commit to living from this deeper understanding. Each moment of conscious choice, each decision to respond from love rather than fear, each act of service performed with genuine care, creates ripples that extend far beyond what our ordinary awareness can perceive. Your personal healing contributes to the healing of the collective. Your individual growth supports the evolution of human consciousness itself. What moves me most about this path is how it honors both the uniqueness of your personal journey and your fundamental connection to all life. You're not trying to become like anyone else or follow someone else's template for spiritual development. Instead, you're learning to trust the particular combination of gifts, challenges, and opportunities that comprise your specific curriculum for growth, while remembering that this personal work is part of a much larger tapestry of awakening that includes every soul who has ever lived. As you continue continue exploring what it means to live from this deeper understanding, you'll likely discover that the most profound transformations often happen in the smallest moments, in the space between reaction and response, in the choice to pause and breathe before speaking, in the decision to see beauty where you might have seen only problems before. These micro-practices of consciousness accumulate over time, creating a foundation of wisdom and compassion that can support you through whatever challenges and opportunities lie ahead. The invitation now is to take these insights and weave them into the fabric of your daily experience, not as additional burdens or requirements, but as gifts you offer to yourself and the world around you. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice what you've learned, to experiment with new ways of being, to discover what it feels like to live from the knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to be doing, learning exactly what your soul needs to learn. If this conversation has touched something real in your heart, if these perspectives feel like home to the part of you that has always known there was more to life than what appears on the surface, then I warmly invite you to continue this exploration by joining our community of fellow seekers. Subscribe to our channel not just to receive more content, but to become part of an ongoing dialogue about what it means to live consciously, to grow spiritually, and to serve lovingly in a world that desperately needs the wisdom and compassion that conscious souls can offer.